The top 100 agents are the best of the best, listing and selling more than any other agent in Australia.
Sold. Congratulations, sir. Well bought.
These are the practices, actions and beliefs of the most successful agents in Australian real estate. Raw, honest and completely uncut. Welcome to REB's Secrets of the Top 100 Agents.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Real Estate Business Podcast. I'm Emilie Lauer, Deputy Editor here at Momentum Media. And today we are going to shed light on building a resilient, future-ready agency in an ever-changing market, and especially in Victoria. For this, I am joined by Plant CEO Lisa Pennell. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today live in the studio.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Lisa, before we start, you guys just won the REB Majors Network of the Year Awards, so congratulations. How does that make you feel?
Well, I think particularly because it's a back-to-back win.
Yes.
I'm sure you've got a video of my face. I certainly didn't expect to win a second time. We didn't expect to win last year, but to win again was very overwhelming. And I was not prepared for that. It's an incredible label on the jar, so to speak. You know, we work so hard at what we do and to be the best that we can be, and to be measured up against others in our industry and to come out on top is, you know, an incredible vote of confidence for the work that we're doing and for our network at large.
How was the staff's response to the awards?
Amazing, overwhelming. You know, there was a lot of messages flying around in our director chat late at night and early the next morning. Our shareholders, you know, Barry, Vic and Mike, you know, were all thrilled that night. Our leading directors were thrilled. Our HQ team were thrilled. It really was a moment.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, this year is shaping up to be a big year for Plant. So just to start off, what's on your 2026 horizon?
Well, we've got a lot on the horizon. Our foundation is really solid now for growth, which we're already on a roll with, and so our momentum continues to build in that space. Our existing office network, we're seeing incredible increases year on year in terms of performance in our existing network, as well as a number of newcomers now starting to approach us, which is again a really exciting testimony to the work that we're doing. AML is a big thing. Obviously, that's going to we've spent many months and a lot of time finding the right solution that doesn't distract our officers and our agents from what they do best, which is obviously listing, selling and managing property. And that obviously takes effect on 1 July, as you know.
Yeah.
I am expecting some chaos in the industry at large, and we are very confident we'll be sailing through that very smoothly. I feel very good about that, and our our network is very cohesive in the way that we're approaching it. So that's exciting. As for what the broader market's going to do, I have to say that the longer I'm in the industry, the less confidence I have in saying what's going to happen. It's probably part of what I love about this industry. But with so much uncertainty globally, petrol prices going through the roof, and in fact, particularly in Victoria, cost of living is insane. Taxes are crazy, compliance is crazy. I just went and had an omelette at a coffee around the corner and a coffee around the corner before I came in. And what would cost $30 in Melbourne at least was $18 here.
Oh, wow, that different.
A massive difference. And I think it's hard for anyone to comprehend that it is actually that sort of difference. And even shocked me when I walked in. Felt like I was in one of those kid games where you're pretending to buy something over the counter. Didn't quite feel right, but that's what we're up against in Victoria. Hence probably a big reason why our property prices have been so depressed for so long. Again, I do think that gives us resilience that other states don't necessarily have, because we are currently undervalued enormously, and we've had a lot of interstate investor activity. I do believe some global money will move to the Australian property market, and Melbourne is obviously prime for that as well. So
it's going to be a very interesting year this year for Melbourne. 100%. We're going to talk about Melbourne a little bit further down the line, more specifically. Look, the market is uncertain. It is ever-changing. We've got global economics, higher rate environment. How do you build a resilient, future-ready agency?
Well, I think you first of all need to act according to human values. You know, I see a lot of businesses that have values up on the wall, or they talk about being a family business, but the output of that is not in line with the stated values. for every business, I think acting according to human values first is the most critical thing. And because real estate is a people business, doing what's right and acting with a moral compass has to be where things start. We don't always get everything right, but we always make things right if we do make mistakes. And I think that's the critical difference between the way in which we're operating. And I'm sure there's plenty of good operators in our industry, but I think there is a clear reason why trust is at an all-time low for the real estate industry. It can only be because many agents are not acting according to human values.
Yeah, trust in the real estate industry is a big thing. Yeah, like you as a buyer, you've got... the number of time I've got people telling me they don't trust real estate agents. And then as a seller, you're trying to get the best price, but then you've got all of these underquoting and dummy bidding, coming into your ears with the headlines and everything. How do we rebuild that trust in the industry?
Well, and again, I think it's remove the trickery. When I joined this industry 26 years ago now, I was quite shocked at the whole scripts and dialogues, to get people where they need to be. And we've all heard the lines about quoting it high and quoting it low and what the outcomes of those are. How about we just are transparent with our communication? The auction process or private treaty process does enable great negotiation and open competition. It doesn't need to involve lying to people. It doesn't need to involve manipulating the truth. And you can call it whatever you like. But again, when you do the right thing, you actually do the right thing. Don't just talk about doing the right thing, then you win.
And I think that's something you guys at Barry Plant are very big on. It's all about that transparency and a collaborative environment where the ego is left at the door, isn't it?
Barry Plant is a place where success is shared, not hoarded. There is no place for ego in our business, whether it's in our HQ team, whether it is in our director group or in our broader network. It's always refreshing to me. We had a leadership meeting on Wednesday, just gone in Melbourne, and to have a look around the room and see my director group, who are just good humans, wanting to help each other, actually collaborating, not just talking about it, and truly celebrating each other's and our shared success. It sounds like a slogan or a fast line, but I'm living this. I feel like I've met my match in the sense of the way that this group operates is it's a tribe. I can't explain it any other way. It is a special place, and after 3.5 years, I'm very humbled to be leading that and to be achieving the successes and the awards that we have been.
With the business growing, how do you foster that collaborative environment?
I think it's who you let in the front door and who you allow to stay in.
Interesting.
You have to be constantly curating for that, whether it's through... In my inbox just before I got here, I got my complaints review through from the amazing woman who looks after our complaints, and you can see the response times getting shorter and the complaints getting fewer over time. We look for trends and patterns, not only in what's happening in each office, but also across what sorts of complaints. We can tailor our training. We can, our messaging to our directors and the training, that we have in place at all levels. So it's about paying attention. Like I say, it's not about just saying the words. It's about managing the detail as well, because the bigger an organisation gets, the more checks and balances have to be there to ensure that people are doing what they say they're going to do or what they have done.
Yeah, that's it's very interesting. Look, it's all about the culture. How does culture play into future-proofing an agency in those rapid changing ever markets?
I think it's the only way you really can guarantee it, because in an organisation like ours where, there are a lot of officers, each leader in each business has to be operating, with that same ethical stance and the same viewpoint and the same desire to collaborate. And again, when we let a new business into our network, it's very important. The most important thing is what sort of people are these people. They don't have to be the top business in the area. They have to be the best, the right people to match our energy and be willing to, come on the journey and have an appetite to grow. Because I want to be really clear here that culture isn't just about, singing Kumbaya and toasting marshmallows. For me, it is a business. So I don't want to make any mistake that this is a club. It's not a club. We're all about high performance, and high performance to me is part of good culture. No one wants to just sit around and be nice to each other. That's not good culture. Good culture is feeling like you have a purpose and you're achieving it. And for us, the profits come as a side effect of that real drive to be the best that we can be. So hopefully that makes sense.
100%. And look, the more the industry evolves, the better processes you need to have in place. And that's where technology and prop tech starts coming into play. Like it's all about saving times. What are some of the specific tools or changes that you've made that have been helping, your agents perform better?
Great question. Again, it's an interesting trend in our industry, how much money has been spent on propensity modelling, trying to get to that customer who's about to sell or, first. How do we find out and identify them and get to them first? Our approach is different. Our tech investment is all about how do we improve the relationship with our customer, because we believe if we improve transparency and improve the customer relationship with our customer base, the best referral is from someone who is a raving fan already, that's sitting around the barbecue when someone says, I'm thinking about selling, you've got to use Spiro from Barry Plant or Brendan from, that's the best advertisement of all time. And again, the brand promise has to be lived. The values have to be lived. And so our investment has all been about how do we create tech that improves transparency and trust. And we have released some initiatives that have really gone to that. We do have propensity modelling, is part of day-to-day life. We do have AI, but it's got to underpin the relationship, not get in between the relationship. AI running rampant through a business is dangerous in our view. Technology coming between the customer and the agent is dangerous in our view, and that's not where we're playing.
And I think that's a very interesting point. I was talking with the team at REB the other day. I think as a buyer, AI can be very dangerous for agencies, because if you start asking questions and the human contact is already stopped from the get-go, I'm sorry, but I don't want to buy from you.
Correct. And, there are two big brands that I loved and used for many years that in a different industry when I was moving and needed to buy some furniture that I'll never use again. Because when issues went wrong with delivery, which was because systems didn't talk to systems and the automated messages were wrong, and there's people sitting around waiting for deliveries that don't come. And then when you try to get to a person to understand what's happened, you have an AI bot or a recorded and a press this button, and then eventually you end up with someone in an overseas country who's very polite but unable to help.
Yeah.
And empathy is about genuinely taking hold of a problem and solving it, not just being nice when the problem's stated. Infuriating, and time is valuable, and I don't feel valued as a customer in that environment. And like I say, there is a place for automation, but not necessarily the place where it's playing in our industry right now. Volume isn't the game, quality is the game.
Yeah. What are some of the prop tech that could be dangerous for agencies?
Bots. Any automated, any AI question answer scenario, because I don't know about you, I find them infuriating.
I can't deal with it.
And they can be wrong.
And look, I always try to find a phone number every time I can. Look, sometimes it's a nightmare. But yeah, no, I agree. Bots are dangerous. What are some of the automation that you can put inside the business to actually facilitate agents' time and I don't want to say reactiveness, but just streamline their processes and it's on admin and stuff like this?
Well, I think we're on the Google platform, and certainly using AI to find information that's within a system can make that process a lot quicker. Again, that's an internal use of AI as a tool for the agent or for the administrator or whoever in the business. I use it myself frequently for that. I think summaries of emails, which is another AI feature, so that, if you get a really long email, you can quickly look at a summary and see the relevant parts, which will then tell you whether you need to read the whole thing or not. There's time savings in that as well. But again, these are tools that we're using to help our brains move faster. They're not influencing that customer relationship. And again, we're always looking at what's possible and what's available, but we tread very, very carefully. And there's all sorts of legal implications here as well. You only have to think about these AI recorders on video calls. You've probably been on ones where they start recording and, you might come to a meeting late, it's already recorded. This is not legal. That you need permission in order to record somebody. These things are automatically sending notes to all participants. And if someone was late to a call and didn't hear you say, or they didn't notice it was on, you've just broken a law.
Which you got to be careful of.
Again, so, but they can be like whack-a-mole trying to get them out of your system. If they're in your system, you can be infested. And a lot of people don't realise when they click on something that they've just agreed to record every single video call they're going to be on. And then this thing's running rife through its system. These are the things that we need to be careful of. The technology is moving faster than legislation.
Well, you've just launched an app to reshape customers' experience.
Shh. It's doing really well. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry. Oh, my God. If you would... Lisa.
No, I'm joking. We're marketing it heavily. It's
oh, my
fine.
God. If you're watching the YouTube page, you would see my face. I just blanked for a second. My little heart.
No, I'm joking. There are no secrets, and we absolutely expect to be copied because it is a wonderful piece of technology, and I'm thrilled that we're first to market with this. But the good news is we're continually evolving our product, and our initiatives. So you can catch us if you can.
So run us through. What does it imply?
It's all about providing the customer with power in their hands, so that there are no secrets about the sort of, again, it takes away the trickery of influencing the way in which consumers or vendors are seeing, at the moment it's a vendor app, in the way in which vendors are able to access information. So instead of us saying, you can trust me, we're showing them you can actually trust me. Put your money where your mouth is. It's as simple as that.
100%. And look, we talked about it at the very beginning of the pod. The Victorian market is shaping to have maybe one of its biggest year in the last couple of years.
Yes.
Let's put it that way.
Yes.
But there's a lot of new rules and regulations coming up. And we know that compared to other markets, Victoria is very tough on compliance. Look, one that is going to be nationwide, and it's AML CTFs. So AML CTFs coming up by 1st of July.
Yes.
Which means a lot of things will change for agencies. So how do you think AML CTF is going to impact the market, and what are you guys doing at Barry Plant for that?
I'm going to tell you a little story. When I first took this role, and I did a podcast very early on where the interviewer asked me, it came up that I'd never been an agent, I've never run an office, but I've been in franchising for 25 years. I had a corporate background prior to that. And that question was asked of, how is that a good thing? And I was, obviously everyone suffers imposter syndrome when they first step into a big role. And I kind of stepped back and went, I looked around myself and saw, many other leaders in our industry are real estate agents. They have been, that's been their whole life. And I sort of thought at that point, well, what am I bringing to the table? Well, now I know what I'm bringing to the table. It's business. It's corporate experience, because something like AML is extremely complex. And if you take a simplistic view, you're actually stepping into a dangerous territory. Not to mention the fact that with New Zealand having already undertaken Tranche 2, the marketing from those companies that are already in the marketplace over there has been intense.
Yeah.
And so the temptation is for a real estate brain is to pick the shiny bauble. Everyone's made their own choice, and no judgment in that. But for us, it's been a much slower process. In fact, we only signed off on our roadmap probably about 6 weeks, 2 months ago at board level, because we really wanted to make sure that the provider was the right provider, the model we had was the right model, how we would roll it out, how it would impact our agencies and our agents. And as I said at the very beginning, how we could make sure that they can be free to list and sell. One of the biggest challenges in our industry, that a lot of these franchise groups are not actually operating franchises. In the purest sense of the word, a franchise is a working model where someone can walk in and follow systems and procedures and processes. And many of the franchises in Australia are not that. They're actually marketing a brand. You can license the brand. It's a licensing agreement. And so for us, as I say, this really important part is about a process, a partner, systemisation and simplification. And the end of that story is that, yes, I finally understand where my value sits in terms of my role working in franchising.
So how will AML look for you guys?
So we've landed on a hybrid model, actually. So the sort of two simple options are agent direct model, whereby, it sits with the individual office and the responsibility is all there to sort themselves out effectively. And the other model that is commonly adopted in our industry, as far as I can see, is a reporting group, and that centralises responsibility. So in any group, whether it's a franchise or licensed group, where there's sort of a centralised body that does all the work and takes on the liability and responsibility for that work. We've landed on a hybrid model whereby our offices have very clear processes, but the individual liability sits with the office. But the support actually sits in our support desk. We have a centralised support desk. So there is someone on hand 24/7 to assist with whatever happens. There'll only be a small number of transactions that require that level of support. But what it does do is quarantine anything that goes wrong, so that if something does go wrong at office level, it is quarantined to that particular office as opposed to the whole brand, which is the risk with the reporting group. And likewise, it's not you sort it out. We're actually assisting our officers all the way through. We've also partnered with a business that is already operating with AUSTRAC in Australia. It's not a New Zealand business. They're operating in the financial services sector. And there's another leading Sydney agency that has partnered with them as well, a strong technology business, which again gives us enormous confidence that we're making a good call on that as well. And so the tailored solution, the willingness to work with us and the way that we want to work, the pricing, the systems, we're very, very confident.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting time, especially for the first couple of months where, agents, agencies and network will have to adapt and maybe make slight changes to what they thought they were going to do and what's realistically will happen, on the day-to-day, basically. How do you see the requirement from AML/CTF changing the way agents interact with buyers and sellers, at the call phase and, particularly around due diligence?
Well, there is no way for an agent to escape their responsibility in the field. Doesn't matter if you're a reporting group or whatever. And I think that's one of the dangers of a reporting group with centralised liability is if the agent thinks that they don't have that responsibility, that liability will fall to the franchisor or the reporting group. And so the agent has to identify certain behaviours. They have to ask questions. They have to flag, concerns. I heard one director had said they were planning on flagging every customer as red and, AUSTRAC can sort it out. I mean, again, guys, there's no way around this. You can't ignore it. There are serious fines, not only for incorrect information, but for delays in information. Huge fines, daily fines if it's not done properly. And there will be audits. Anyone who thinks that this is going to be something that we'll deal with later, we're actually up for an international audit at the end of this year. It's international. It's not even just about Australia. So this is not a political move. This is not something that you can ignore. It has to be done. And like I say, I do fear that given a lot of the operators that it appears that Australian businesses have signed up for may not necessarily be currently operating with AUSTRAC, which is our legislative body. New Zealand and Australia are very different countries. So I do fear a bottleneck.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting couple of months. So watch this space, especially here with the team at REB. We will be definitely reporting on the issue.
It's not sexy, but it's necessary. Yeah.
Look, we report on everything from the boring pieces to the very interesting ones. We cover it all. That's why you get your news, people. Look, Victoria is also on a push for more transparency in the market. There's been a lot going on and a lot of things have been pushed by the government, the state's government, including, disclosures campaign and a new rules at auctions with reserve price having to be published 7 days before the auction. How is this going to impact the market and how is this going to impact the auctions down there you guys?
Well, there's quite a few steps that have to, hoops that have to be jumped through before that is legislated. I have been part of that working group with the REIV and several recommendations have been adopted as election promises. Probably the announcement of them hasn't been helpful if they haven't yet been legislated because they're not law currently, and that can be confusing for consumers. But I think the reality is that anything that promotes transparency and trust is a good thing. As when dummy bidding got outlawed and, there was a hue and an outcry over that, We will adapt. The challenge is not the legislation. The challenge still comes back to the behaviours and the human values, because those who want to do the wrong thing will always find a way around the legislation. Those who choose to do the right thing will always win at the end of the day.
Same for the price result. So that has been just also announced as an election pledge. How do you think this is going to play on the market? Because sometimes it's the sellers, like the buyers, I should say, that don't want to disclose how much they paid for it.
Or the seller.
Yeah.
And look, I think that particular one is a really good thing, because at the end of the day, it will be published, within 3 months or so through land titles anyway. It is important information for buyers coming behind to know what market value actually looks like. And whilst we respect people's desire to keep those things private, at the end of the day, it is an open market, and I think open market information is a healthy thing for everybody.
So how do you see the Victorian market change with all of these new rules and potential regulations?
We'll do what we do, and we'll continue to evolve and try and move with it and adapt to it as best we can. But as I say, I think compliance with legislation is more important than legislation. And I still think there's a fundamental gap between the way in which we're ensuring compliance, or the regulators ensuring compliance, and I've not made any secret of my views on this. This is where AI should be used. This is where technology should be used. I do not understand why we have officials showing up crossed arms at auctions, which is intimidating for buyers and sellers, and increases the mistrust towards agents, because it looks like, we've got police at auctions and bursting into offices and demanding files. With all due respect, that's not partnership. If we're going to build trust and do the right thing by consumer, how about we have, like we have with tax returns now in Australia? You won't hear, but in the old days you had a 3-part group certificate, and you kept one and the accountant kept one. You send one to the tax, and then you had to get a statement from here and report your interest. And we don't do any of that now. It's all lodged electronically, and the checks and balances are such that much of the audit process is automated. I don't understand why we don't have that in property.
Yeah, well, maybe we will.
Well, maybe we will. If I say it enough times.
Maybe. Please are changing the property world. You mentioned adaptability and that agents in Vic will have to adapt to all those new rules and regulations. Is it swim or sink? Sink or swim? How do you say it?
Is it sink or swim?
Swing, yeah.
You can say it however you like.
Oh, well, I'm French. I'm got
I know. I'm trying not to use too much slang for you.
Look.
I'm a Queenslander originally, so every second line would be slang if I wasn't careful. I think life is sink or swim. Adapt or die is a truism. We can fight against what is, but any resistance is futile, as the saying goes. It is what it is, and certain things are worth fighting against and for. But the reality is that you need to pick your battles, and working within the system and working effectively within the system, I think is the important thing to do along the way.
Fantastic. Well, that drives me to my last questions. Looking ahead, Lisa, in the next 5 or 10 years, what do you think will separate agencies that survives from all of those changes compared to those who fall behind? And where is Barry Plant placing its bets?
Good question. I think Barry Plant has always been a really connected group who are curious and agile. And so we will continue to adapt quite effectively because of the nature of this brand. And this is not in my time. This is the history of the brand. I'm just fortunate to be matched and leading it right now. But I think the group has always been that and will always be that as long as it is around and in existence. I think there will be a lot of rationalisation of our industry over the next few years because there's pressure on commissions, there's pressure on margins, there's a lot of additional costs in businesses these days generally. I do struggle to understand how some of the smaller groups are doing business well because I know in our business the costs that are involved in ensuring that we have a really full service offering for our franchisees. And so I would expect to see more rationalisation over time. The good groups will continue to grow and those who are perhaps not operating so effectively, will have their day, as has always been in every, through the ages, in every industry, in every time.
Fantastic. Well, look, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for all your insight, Lisa. Always a pleasure to have you in the studio and on the pod.
Absolute pleasure to be here. I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Finally made it happen. Thank you so much. Well, look, we will be back with another episode of the Real Estate Business Podcast very, very soon. In the meantime, find us on our social media. Just search for Real Estate Business.